You just press play on the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the HUNTROVERSY. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it. What's up, everybody? We're back. It is episode number 71 of the Thanksgiving Trio. So we're laying down another podcast tomorrow. If you missed yesterday's podcast, it was about Crunch. If you missed Monday's podcast, it was about Allie and Logan killing a buck they call Strong Hand.
Yep.
And this is, like I said, one of three. This is the middle episode, and this is a HUNTROVERSY style episode. So my guest today is Garrett, who already said hi just a little bit earlier. But for those of you guys that don't know what Garrett sounds like, Garrett.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And just so you know, I'd like to advertise that this is a corona-free podcast. You can listen to this from your car or your phone or YouTube safely, and it does not contain COVID. So know that and just be happy that you're listening to a corona-free podcast.
Yep, that's right. And this is also a reminder that every Monday you guys can listen to a new episode of our podcast. This is kind of a special thing that we're doing here, laying down 3 in a row, but we wanted to get caught back up with the stuff that's been going on. So on tomorrow, Thursday, December 3rd, we're going to tell you the story of a buck Matt killed called Hanson. And we hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving and a holiday weekend with your family. A reminder, Illinoisans, your turkey tags.
December 2nd.
Yeah, first lottery is today. So apply today and get in that first lottery. If not, second lottery starts tomorrow. So either way, go apply for your turkey tag. I know I'm going to be applying for my second turkey tag during the second lottery, just like you are, but we'll get bumped to the third lottery because you can't draw back-to-back in Illinois for turkey. But either way, I'm going to apply real soon here for my second time, so I'm in the very beginning of the third lottery. So either way, if you're going to hunt turkey in the spring in Illinois, make sure you get a tag, and now would be the time to apply. So YouTube. We're really trying to grow that this year. You went over that in the last podcast, but you would really be doing us a huge honor and a huge favor if you could go hit that subscribe button and check us out on YouTube. We've got a really healthy amount of deer hunts, buck hunts, turkey kills. We've got some mule deer hunting on there. We've got a bear hunt, which was awesome. A bunch of hand fishing, stuff like that, some antelope hunting, and we're pretty proud of our YouTube channel. So we think that if you visit there, you may think the same thing. So thank you for everybody who's been hopping on there recently with us. And like I said, welcome to episode number 71. This is a HUNTROVERSY. This is the home of the HUNTROVERSY. And our controversial topic that we're going to be talking about today, 2 listeners requested this one. And it is killing does. So
when to kill them.
Right. Early versus mid versus late. Which is smarter? What is better management? What leads to better hunting? Like I said, requested by a listener. So the general question that we're going to be trying to answer here is kind of started at this question here. And that is, you're kind of gathered with your buddies like late season. At least for us in Illinois, we have a couple times late season in which we could kill a doe or a buck with a gun. But for this argument, we're just talking about does only. And lots of them will come up to you and say, you just killed 2 or 3 deer, which is kind of a non-invasive kind of back-assed slap to the face saying that you should have killed does earlier, potentially. Not saying that they're trying to be mean in what they're saying, but they might just be trying to ruffle your feathers a little bit, razzle you a little bit. And that means that they may disagree with your choice to kill or harvest a doe during this time. So the question I have is then, what is the best time? So we're going to go over that, debate that, check out the pros, the cons of all 3 kind of phases of the hunting season, early, middle, and late. And before I get into that, I'm going to go ahead and ask you the question, what is your favorite time to kill does? So before we kind of dive into the more of the data-driven discussion we're about to have, what's your favorite time?
Well, I think this is it goes hand in hand because it'll flow well with the HUNTROVERSY. And first off, I do want to say we are the OGs of this stuff, man. We are the original controversial topic in the outdoor industry, doing it on a podcast. 100% homegrown right here in this studio. Me and you brainchild this. We dubbed it the HUNTROVERSIAL, the controversial, the hot topics of hunting. Right here, we did this. And on that note, my answer transitions really well with kind of the progression of I think this Huntroversy is going to go. And the short answer is I prefer to shoot does early season. And when I say early season, I'm talking like the first 10 days of archery opener.
Which for us is October 1st through the 10th.
And I'm going to tell you why. So for us, like Grant said, October 1st through the 10th. So some states do have the ability that open up in September, some even in August. And I think that if we had an opportunity to hunt that early, our focus might be shifted because you still have opportunities to hunt bucks on summer patterns and maybe even velvet patterns. Mm-hmm. But given the fact that the time of year when our season opens, most bucks have shed their velvet and they've gone nocturnal. They're starting to really kind of carve out their home space.
They're separate, yeah.
It's very difficult to get on them in those first 10 days of October. Can it be done? Yes. I'm not saying it's impossible. There's tons of guys that do it, but it's a more difficult task. So for me, the big factor is that I have been out of quote unquote tournament shape, right? I've been shooting my bow all summer, but realistically, I haven't probably drawn my bow on a deer since like the November, December the year prior. So it's really nice to kind of get that itch out of the way, get all the quirks and the kinks and the elevated heart rate and all that stuff out of the way. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't shoot a buck that early. I mean, we have, but it's kind of like batting practice before you go to the game. It just allows you to stretch some muscles and just to get a little bit of confidence in your equipment and your ability as a hunter and an archer and other things. And so for me, I enjoy it for that aspect primarily. I also think from a managerial aspect that it does yield benefits in the sense that you have a long time to let things calm down. So you shoot a doe in early season, you go home, you put some meat in the freezer, you take it to the processor, but more importantly, you can get in there, you can drive your truck in, your quad in, your side-by-side, grab the deer, you're going to mix some stuff up, but it's not really in the time of year that you're zoned in for big deer, for bucks. And then lastly, there is a guarantee that at that time of the year, that doe is not bred. It's very strong probability that she will be, especially if you have a healthy herd, but guaranteed that time of year, she's not. So my answer is I like early season because get the itch out, work out the kinks, get some confidence.
Low pressure.
You're not putting any less pressure on removing her. You just have a very long time, a very forgiving time to let things settle down before you're really hunting big bucks. And then, she's not bred. 100% she's not bred. So that's my preferred time to hunt, to shoot does.
Perfect transition to the next point that I wanted to make here, and that was the other day when I was thinking about this, I kind of decided that I would pencil down all the theories that some people that I look up to and respect have. So we're going to start with Bill Winke. So if you followed Midwest Whitetail for any duration of or length of time, you've heard Bill talk about managing does on his property. And if you follow him really closely like I do, he's got a cameraman, Drake. And last year, he and Drake, over the course of about 3 days, killed about 18 does. Now, that's a massive amount of does to be killing, which is kind of alarming almost, like the number 18. That's a ton of does. Now, let it be known that his property is absolutely huge, so it's not like he's taking 18 does off of 40 acres, right? That would crush a population pretty quickly, I feel like, to do that. So he's managing a large piece of land, right? But his mindset is crush the does so that the bucks really have to compete. Essentially, so that way you eliminate the peak rut. Your deer are constantly from like very late October all the way up through the quote unquote lockdown phase. There are still bucks buzzing around hard because there are so few does. That's his theory. The next theory, kind of the balance theory. This is a hunter that's going to go out and shoot for a 50-50 mix. The theory here is that you have the amount of does, thus you'll have the bucks. Meaning if you have more does in estrus, it's just a probability that more bucks will be on your property if you have the does to supply them with. Mindset number 3, that's kind of like the trophy hunter mindset. This is the person that only shoots big bucks, zero doe management really. Theory number 4, I listen to Mark and Terry Drury do a podcast, and they also have written some articles about this, and they believe this. that typically bucks they notice that grow the largest antlers. So this would be kind of the balance theory mixed with the trophy hunter mindset. These bucks they've noticed grow the largest antlers, and they have the least severe rut. So they're the kind of polar opposite that Bill Winke is, in terms of if they can help it and they can supply the deer with the does and be hunting in proximity with that happening, with the rut happening, then their deer will grow more because they're less stressed, don't have to travel as far during the rut because they can supply them with the does. And then there's the kind of quote unquote meat hunter, right? They kill young does, young bucks, old bucks. They're not really targeting a specific deer. They're just more out there for the meat, like I said. So some interesting facts to know. I looked up a QDMA article written by Dustin Prevost. Sorry, Dustin, if you're listening and I butchered your last name. I'm not sure how you say it. Prevost, not sure. But he said in his article, 95% of the does that are able to be impregnated are bred within a 4-week window. We know that a human is created after the conception roughly 9 months later. Thanks to the QDMA, we know the gestation period for a deer is anywhere between 195 and 201 days. With this information, we can find precisely when the doe is bred, indicating the quote-unquote peak rut from the prior year. Many of us will never witness fawns being bred, but we might see one in the field. So let's say we find a fawn that appears to have been born on the May 30th. If we count back between 195 and 201 days, we know that the date of conception was between November 11th and the 17th. And we know that to be the peak rut, quote unquote, time. So my point with making that is that when late season rolls around, 95% roughly of the does are bred and carrying, that are able to be bred, right? 95% of them are carrying a fawn or two or possibly three, right? So the odds that you're killing quote unquote more deer, which is what I feel like a lot of people get flack for in the late season, online, etc., is true. You are killing multiple deer, right? So what do you have to say to that as we kind of shift focus to late season?
Yeah, well, we need to cover mid-season, but before we get there, I knew that stat off the top of my head. I was going to talk about it. I'm glad you brought it up. The 90 to 95% of your does that can be bred are bred. So with that data, I think the argument made is, well, if I shoot a doe in early season with a 95% chance that she's going to be bred, it's the same kind of thing.
You're killing her before it happens.
But she's, that type of percentage, if it was like a 50% or a 20%, then I think you would have a much more severe argument to say that you do have a potential to not. But so I think the guys that shoot them in late season are going to say, hey man, like whether you kill her in December or you kill her in October, given the chance she's got 95% chance she's going to be bred, you're really still killing that fawn.
Yep.
It's just, given that high percentage of pregnancy rate,
yes,
conception rate.
Yep.
I think that so that idea, it's hard to be able to say yes or no, and that's why I just go back to there is a chance that the doe that you shoot in October will not be bred.
Very low,
but there is, and that's why I lean towards that, because it's a guarantee. In late season, it's a probable cause that she has been, a slight chance that she hasn't. You know what I mean? But in October, there's that guarantee factor that she will not be bred. She is not bred. Sure. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, and that's why I just lean towards the guarantee. That being said, full disclosure here, men and women, I kill does in late season. I do. Yeah. My preference is to kill them early. I'm not saying that I don't. If I had my choice, if I needed X amount of deer for my family to be able to sustain us till next season, I would prefer to harvest them in October. Me personally, not saying that I don't shoot them in late season, because I have and I do,
with bow or gun.
Correct. So I think moving into mid-season now, that is for me the big no-no. And that's more a sense for probably greedier reasons. But I think during the midseason is like November 20th or October 20th to November 20th, right? Like what most guys consider the best time of the year to hunt. I really feel like that time of year is when you should not be focusing on does, because you still will have a long late season to be able to do it. But that time of year, you have to think that those does are coming in estrus or leaving estrus. I mean, that's the best time for those does to be on your property to attract deer, bucks specifically. So I think shooting those at that time is really going to hinder your opportunity at a buck. Not only are you shooting a doe that's going to be the most attractive thing to a buck, I keep saying deer, to a buck, mature or not, the most attractive thing, but you're also going to have a lot of added pressure again during the time of year most guys really want to focus on buck hunting. So I just don't see the advantage of that other than the fact that deer are more active during that time. So you might, with archery equipment, get yielded an opportunity more so during that time. But boy, I really feel like if you can stay off from October 20 to November 20, you'll probably increase your opportunities of shooting a buck.
I would agree with you. I think, though, that it all comes back to what are the goals that you have as a hunter? Because like you just said, in terms of the best time to kill a doe, I mean, for somebody that's in boat number 5, which would be like the quote-unquote meat hunter boat, they're probably going to have more opportunities in November. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like,
and I think
I just think it depends on who they are. Like the reason why we don't shoot does in November typically, unless they're stomping and blowing and throwing a hissy fit at us.
Giving us every excuse to kill them.
The reason we don't do that is because, number one, so we don't have to go and pull a doe out of a bedding sanctuary when she goes and runs and dies, which would be terrible, to leave all that ground scent in there.
Yep.
And, to blow up our quote-unquote best stand for something that we want it to be a buck. So that's our goal. When looking through that lens, that's why we don't do it. But for somebody that's like, I'm going to whack does, like, I don't care, like somebody like Bill Winke, like, I've seen a couple of his pro staffers on his shows before. Like, I remember it last year on Midwest Whitetail season 4, Chasing November season 4, there was a guy that has a 5-arrow quiver, and it was like October 20, like late in October, and he thumps 5 consecutive does in a row, like shoots his whole quiver. Every one of them dies, like perfect shot. Dude's a crack shot. But at that time of the year specifically, I probably wouldn't have shot does. But if you're somebody that's trying to crush does and you have all those opportunities, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, maybe it does make sense, but I think it just depends on, like I said, what your goal is.
I do. I think
your goal is.
To the stem of this argument is the goal. But I do think, like, if your management objective is to shoot more does like Bill Winke's approach, or to manage for a 50-50 ratio, whatever, I think that the best opportunity to do that is later in the year. Like that guy, what I'm saying is if that guy needed to take 5 does off his property,
why not just wait?
Right. That would be my kind of interaction with him if we had that conversation. Just be like, hey man, you can kill as many deer as you want. Your property, your lease, your permission,
your
whatever.
Pig, not my farm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like, do you really think you wouldn't have had an ability, after November 20th, that you wouldn't have had 5 opportunities at does? That would have been my question. And it does. It goes back to what's your goal? And from there, because yes, number 5, the meat hunter guy, and good on them, man. But I think, he's going to shoot what he gets an opportunity at, whether it's buck, doe, fawn, doesn't matter. He's going to fling an arrow or a shell or a slug or whatever. And that's fine, dude, line them up. But we just got different wavelengths of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
think the other important thing to distinguish, like with late season, and why somebody could, because I agree with you. I wouldn't advocate for people shooting them in the mid season. I would rather kill does early season, like you said, to get the itch off. It's, we're not, we got a good time build up before our best stands come active in like October 20th, right? We got a good time period to get it out of the way
in October,
right?
Anyway.
And we've got a good time to kind of disturb, but not go into the core areas, right? And still kind of put some pressure on the outside, but kind of stay out of the good spots. And for somebody that doesn't have, and what I'm about to say when we transition into late season is quote unquote late season, at least where we're from in Illinois and just the North in general. I mean, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Montana, like all those northern states, even the guys out west, Maine, New Hampshire, New York, stuff like that. Sorry, east. I mean, the temperature is brutal, and if you don't have late season food, it's hard to kill deer of that volume. You know what I'm saying? Like if you take away all of our food plots and everything like that, could we kill does? Yes. But we wouldn't be able to kill them in the volume that we are able to kill them during like a gun season when they're on one of our food plots and it's nice and rested. And we kill the one out of the first wave that comes out at like 3:00. Then we kill one out of the second wave that comes out at like 4:05, and maybe possibly one out of the third wave that's in the quote unquote just before dark wave. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I feel like that mindset also changes and varies on your properties, because if you don't have the opportunity to plant food plots or blah blah blah, et cetera, then I feel like your gaze would shift just to any other time during the season, early or mid, when you can kill those does. Like I said, I wouldn't advocate it, but I think that's a thing that we got to think about and talk about here, because
very good. Because
you and I take it for granted. Like, we know that every year we're going to go into our badass brick ground blinds that we built, and we're going to probably see 10, 20, 30 possibly deer, right? Then we're going to pick the biggest doe that we can find, the fattest doe that we can find, and we're going to crack her.
Yeah,
if we get an opportunity to kill another one, maybe we'll crack her. But I feel like that would change if we didn't have opportunities to plant food plots. Like somebody, somebody that's hunting all public land that can't put in ag, that doesn't have an opportunity to shoot like an ag field or grow an ag field or something like that to draw a deer in, that's just hunting on a trail. I feel like if they're like, hey, shit, hunting's going to really, really suck after all the leaves drop and after the rut's gone and deer are really, really spooky from like rifle, muzzleloader, shotgun, whatever season. And now I'm here on December 10th trying to fill a doe tag. Like, that's going to get a little bit more difficult if I don't have ag to pattern the deer to and from or to shoot them on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I 100%, because one of the old farms that we used to have over by Alexa's, late season would come and there wouldn't be a deer track on it.
Nope.
The farmer plowed all of the fields, and the timber was pretty open. There wasn't a ton of woody browse, and hindsight being 2020, there was very few deer that frequented it, especially during daylight. So that's a great. I honestly didn't even think about that, but you're right. I mean, things shift, and not only with your goals, because I do think quite a few hunters would love to shoot big deer, but just as you said, if you're hunting a smaller section and there's no ag, it's all timber, and maybe just like our experience when we were younger, the farmer does plow or chisel or disc his field that is adjacent to you, you would have potential to have a really poor late season. So, that would have consideration. And even then, so with that, I just revert back to my primary answer. I mean, hunt them in early season. Everything's green. You're going to have deer frequenting your area. So if you're really concerned about the effects of late season, lack of deer, well, then make sure that you get her done.
Buckle down early.
Yeah. Hunt that early season when the does, all deer are still unpressured and on their normal pattern. I think you can get on one. So,
all right. Well, late season. So benefits of killing them in late season. Go for it. Garrett and I were talking about this, full disclosure, before we were sat down and recorded this, and he brought up a really good point about a fetus scale. You want to explain the fetus scale and how cool it is? Like a benefit, an ultra benefit, if you want to be scientific about it, of late season deer hunting and late season doe killing specifically, because you got a really good take on it and blew my mind. I didn't know that shit like that existed, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the advantage of late season, I think my answer would be the first 10 days or like the last 15 days of season. If I had a preference to kill them, right? If I could pick my days, it would be those. And the reason being is that the QDMA has developed something very, just like your article noted, this is math. I mean, as an average, we're just going to say 200 days of gestation. So that is from conception to when the when that fawn drops is roughly 200 days.
Yep.
Now they make, and it's cheap. It's like $25. It's called a fetus scale. And what this thing is literally a piece of metal. It looks very similar like a fishing ruler that is, and it's marked. Okay. And some people do have issues with this idea, this mindset of shooting a pregnant animal, but you have to understand that the rights for humans and the rights for animals are different. I mean, we're not malicious, bloodthirsty, just killers. We are outdoorsmen, and most people that follow us and most of our friends and people that we interact with are sportsmen at heart. So if you dive into this, you get a fetus scale, and if you harvest a doe in the first part or mid-January, as most seasons go till mid-January, there's a chance that doe has been bred for roughly 60 days, maybe even longer. And when you go to dress her, she will have a small fetus inside of her. And what you can do is you'll take this fetus and you'll put its nose on one end and you'll stretch it out. And 48 hours, this thing is incredibly accurate. It will tell you exactly when that doe has been bred. So if you are a land manager, and let's say you do want to balance the herd, or you want to take Bill Winke's method, or you want to hunt some does, and you need to get it done in the last couple antlerless seasons, you can learn a lot about your farm, especially if you do this over the course of 2 or 3 years, by shooting some of the most mature does that you see. They're the ones that are most likely to be bred. Mm-hmm. On top of the fact you have a huge probability that even any doe that you shoot is going to be bred, other than the fawn. You can find the average of when your does are bred in that area. And that is incredibly valuable knowledge, especially to bow hunters, because what you will find is that geographically, that will be very, very consistent. So you will find that, like I said, if you do, let's say you do 5 does in that late season on that farm for 3 years, and you take that 3-year average, 15 deer average, you will find that I bet that within 4 to 5 day delta, most of your does are getting bred. So for me, as a bow hunter and a guy that, like, if you own your property, you have a long-term lease, or your family owns ground, that will tell you exactly when you want to take vacation. There is no more guesswork anymore, because you want to be, those days and then the week before it. Those 10 days are going to be by far probably some of the best rut hunting that you can have on your farm.
Yes.
So from a land management standpoint, from a trophy management standpoint, and just from really a hunting standpoint, that is incredible. And it's, again, you have to go with it, the open eyes. It is not for the faint of heart or the squeamish, but man, that is pretty neat for $25. The last time I looked, it was like $25. And, you and your friends, you go out and you just sit in a couple different spots in late season and that last antlerless only, and you do that, man, that's like the golden ticket. It's a golden ticket. And especially if you do it for 3 years and really solidify that average. Mm-hmm. Wow. Because like this year it'd be very interesting to look at it. This year was very warm in November. So if we did like a 3-year average, I would be curious to see
would this data point be valid versus the others,
or just different,
right?
And who knows? But anyway, that to me is the big ultimate value of late season doe harvesting, to take it to that degree and to be able to really you're already killing the animal, and you're going to use her meat or donate or whatever you want.
Why not learn something?
Let's get a little bit extra out of it, right? That's something you can't get in early season. So the inverse to my, theory, I'd rather shoot them early because they're not bred. Well, I can't get any really seasonal data from that. There is no extra value other than what my theory was for why I like to hunt them early.
Yep.
But in late season, you have that little asterisk there where if you do take the next step and you measure out your fetus and you calculate when she was bred, well, now you've got some tangible freaking information, man, that you hope your neighbor doesn't know, because you're on to something, buddy.
Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty good takeaway. We should try doing that this year. Kill a big deer on 2 different spots, see what the fetus scale says, and see how it's potentially different in 2 areas, because there are a lot of what is it? I used to look at it really hard 3 or 4 years back. I don't look at it quite as much anymore, but it's the Whitetail Rut Heat Map. You emailed me the link. Who makes that?
I don't remember anymore. We don't even use it. It was very interesting though. Yeah.
So this is
it was by Field and Stream.
I think it's Field and Stream. Yeah, I think you're right. So Garrett emailed me this link a couple of years back. I want to say it was towards the end of when I was in college, so it would have been like not a couple, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, right? And he emails me this link, and basically it's just a slider, right? It's a simple slider, and all these different hunters that are collaborating on this project.
It's open to the public.
Yeah, open to the public. Basically just says, what's your name? What county are you in? What part of that county? What phase of the rut did you see today? So somebody sitting in, let's say, Pike County, Illinois, about 2.5 hours directly south of us, maybe they see rut activity late, or a doe get topped, or a nice mature buck running after a hot doe on, I don't know, October 24th, something crazy nutso weird. Well, on that map, that color will be displayed, versus you and I, it'll be like a different color, like white, like a buck doesn't. We saw scraping or something like that, and all these different 10 or 11 things, and you can kind of slide it through, and you can see when pockets of at least our state, Illinois, which is the one I always selected, is firing on all cylinders for the rut, and that information just kind of directly ties right to that. Talk about getting a good pulse of when the deer are going to come into rut in a certain area, because we have a lot of friends that text us, call us, talk to us from different parts of Illinois or different parts of, Iowa, Missouri, etc., anywhere in the Midwest here, that are like, man, have you seen rutting activity? I just saw a big buck running a doe. And I was like, wow, we haven't seen that yet, but that's awesome.
And that it is, it's very geographical. It's regional. It is
regional. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. The end all to this controversy is that I don't think there is a tried and true. Like most of these things, there's not a definitive right answer. It does have a lot to do with what your goals, what your preferences are, and what your management objectives. And between those three things, I think you can really calculate what you think is better. And maybe this podcast, this Huntcast, brought to light some factors that you didn't think about. That's what we're wanting to do.
Yep, bingo.
Is enlighten you guys with stuff that we have learned with most of Hard Knocks, and then a lot of just being freaking whitetail geeks.
Yep.
And looking it up and learning and networking with biologists and zoologists and other diehard hunters out there. So, what would you say? I didn't ask you the question. If you had a choice, what would you do?
Well, I wanted to bring up one more good point during late season, and then touch on something you said earlier so that people understood why you said it. The first thing is, my favorite thing about hunting, I think a big benefit of hunting late season, if we're still kind of on the late season benefits, I like to, because you and I do have food plots and we do have the ability to manage one piece of ground in particular really well, the ability to kind of gauge and see the quote unquote big picture. And what do I mean by that? We got struck with EHD 2 years ago here. This will be our 3rd year hunting coming up next year, the 2021 season, 3 years after the EHD hit us. And so last year, the most deer that we saw on a hunt in one of our big, late season food plot stands, and we're talking brutal conditions, 10 degrees, sub 10 degrees. The most deer we saw last year was 18, which is low for us. There'd be some days with those conditions and the right conditions, the right time, where we could see almost 40 or 50 deer. Last year was 18. This year, though, the refreshing thing is you and I and Logan went out the other night and hunted here. Well, and there's a buck that kind of showed up about 5 or 6 days before shotgun season that we wanted to go put Logan on. So we went out there and we saw about 22 deer. I got a little clicker app on my phone that we kind of count up all the deer sightings that we have and just kind of think about. And the benefit that I have to late season is you can get a big picture on how many deer lived, what deer lived, how many mature does are feeding in front of you versus how many fawns versus how many small bucks versus how many mature bucks, right?
I think the argument
I like it.
You can do that without killing doe, though.
Correct. So I think a big benefit of killing a doe then is that you also get that data. That's all I'm saying. Like, if for a person that doesn't go out late season like we do, I think a big benefit of killing a doe there during that time is that you can also, like you said, with the fetus scale, collect that data. There's a power to collect just that observational data. Like, man, I'm seeing 38 deer. I see 12 what look to be big does. I see 2 or 3 mature bucks. I see 8 to 10 like subordinate small basket, like year and a half to basket rack sized bucks, and I see a bunch of fawns.
But
like
I think that though, and I'm not dismissing this at all, 100%. But if your objective, like if we were to we want to try to calculate our fetus scale out there, right? On that piece, we would. I mean, are you saying that we shoot a deer at the very last light? Because I think to get the actual whole compassing view, you got to sit in there and not shoot anything early. Yeah. You got to totally let everything filter in there until dark.
Yeah, it depends on what your goal is. Like, if you're going to go just pile those and you're not going to see all the deer. You're not going to see all the deer, and you're going to know that going in. You're going to most likely, like what the setting that we're talking about, there's, a big agricultural field, 4 to 5 acres. Obviously, you can't kill all that with a bow, because unless you can shoot 250 yards with your bow, you can't do that. So we're talking about gun hunting. We're talking about our late antlerless only seasons in Illinois, where you can kill with shotgun or muzzleloader. And that'd be what we're talking about. So we kind of take and assess all the deer. Like I said, you get about 3 days to do that. So normally what we do, at least you and I, because we don't ever really pile those hard during the late season. Like, we're going to go out and shoot as many deer as we possibly can, because normally we take them during the early season. But what I was getting at is on this particular farm that we're talking about here, like this year, I want to go out there late season with you and just kind of take an inventory, and then maybe fill a tag, just because I'd like to have one more deer to get me through till next deer season. But that'd be about it. Sure. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be to like pile those. But my answer to your question, going back to you, is I guess I would rather kill a deer during late season than early season, just because I love seeing deer, and I just like watching those late season deer feeding patterns, and it's just like so rewarding to me to be able to sit over the food plots that we've made and the blind that we built and the green screen that we planted to shield the deer from like cover, from spooking, whatever. It's just rewarding to me to be able to see all that. So I would rather kill a deer during late season, but I think for the benefit of the herd, it's better to kill them during the early season, just because I feel like you're removing a slot on the roster, right? If your McDonald's restaurant can only hold 20 deer inside of it, occupancy 20, and you remove 1 or 2 or 3 of those seats during October that are does, that potentially could be filled with a buck, because we've seen that, like a subordinate buck come in between October 15th and 28th, when we just get that quote unquote roaming rut buck. Maybe that's why you open up a new spot for him to stay and be able to sleep and have a bed and stuff at your restaurant or your hotel, or whatever analogy I'm making right now to make sense, So that's the reason I would rather kill a deer in early season. I would also, I just like shooting them with my bow better, that close interaction, everything like that. But I would rather go hunting during the late season so I can see all those deer.
I will say this though, on the late season idea, we were proud to be able to harvest and then also process all of our deer. And in an early season, it's almost impossible, especially in the days that I listed, to be able to let them hang for a day. Yep. As a common practice, we really, about 24 hours is perfect for the way that we do it, and it's not the way for everybody, but if we can let a deer hang for 24 hours, that meat just seems to firm up, and it really helps us cut it up, silver skin removal and grinding. So I do think that there's an advantage there, because in late season, man, you could let your deer hang for a long time if you really wanted to, given the seasonal temperatures. But so that's another advantage of late season that I didn't think of until just now.
Yeah.
But
it's a good point.
I before we get to the close, we're approaching December. Actually, it is December now when this podcast is launching. The tally at Wayne's right now, there's 15 slots available for the discount code that we have. And I think we're at like 5 slots left. So there's been 10 people that have taken their heads there that have used the code BC or BFD20. And you get $50 off your mount. You'll be able to pick it up in July. We're going to showcase it at the launch party. So if you guys do have success, maybe you didn't during shotgun season or the second season that's coming up or Iowa's gun season that's coming around. That's a really cool thing that we're proud to be doing with him. And just make sure you take your deer over there. Or at least give him a call and lock that slot in. We don't want anybody shortchanged, but just given to the capacity of what Wayne can do. And obviously the launch party, we did have to put a cap on it. So it's at 15. There's 5 left. So 2/3 full. Shitter's almost full, boys.
Yep.
So if you guys do harvest a trophy that you want to preserve forever, like I said, BFD 20 over to Wayne. That dude is one of the best guys we ever met, man.
Yeah. And
he does amazing work.
There's going to be some toads, absolute giants at the launch party this year. There's ironically, I think this is the first year that we've been hanging up deer out there that one of us 4-ish hasn't killed a big one. I think
it happens, man.
That first year we had
Phantom or Geronimo.
Geronimo. Then the following year we had
Mm-hmm.
And then my mule deer.
Yep.
And then last year we would have had dump, but we had to do it digitally. But there's going to be 7 or 8 of the heads that we've killed there, plus about 15 more. So we should have a pretty stacked roster of about 20 plus deer over there for you guys to check out at our launch party, which is going to be awesome because the deer are going to be shot locally in our area by people by your friends, family members, etc. And this year, it's not like a Illinois big buck contest when you can enter it in, any year or whatever. It's this year, which is cool.
Yeah, that is neat. But on that note, tomorrow's podcast is Hanson. And that one is, like I said, Matt never ceases to amaze me. He's posting story. He's taking video this year with his phone hours before he shoots him, and it's just the guy is a killing machine, and he's just got that instinct to him that you can't teach somebody. And I do hope Jesse and him are hunting a buck they call Wyatt Earp. And I hypothesize by the time that this podcast drops, Jesse will have had an opportunity at that deer. So
we can only hope.
I hope so. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. We love you. We appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed this one. We it's been stewing, and anybody else that's got one in the chamber, something that you want to hear us kind of talk about and toss around some ideas, we're open, man. You guys have been awesome. You've been fielding all kinds of stuff and shoveling it our way, and we chew it up, spit it out, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, we're going to be coming out with a really good couple-part Huntroversy down the pipe once we can get the gang back all together after the deer season is wound up, and that's going to be really good. A really good Huntroversy dealing with scent control, playing the win versus not, specifically checking out ozone. Does it work? Does it not? And I think by far the most intriguing scent control product on the market, Nose Jammer. So we're going to have that lined up and coming down the pipe soon to you guys. That'll be a Huntroversy that'll come out within the next few months. And that's been a listener requested one as well. So if you, like Garrett said, if you got any ones that you're thinking of, anything that you're stewing about, kick it our way and we'd love to talk about it. So till next time, we'll see you tomorrow. Don't waste it.